Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To continue on where I was rudely interrupted by time. It has. I used to have a full head of hair. Mr. Speaker, I want to say a few more things. One of them is our ability under the Labor Party, under the Labor government, to play around with our unemployment figures. And I congratulate them on getting unemployment down. Sir, no mean feat. Apart, sir, from their ability to employ thousands and thousands and thousands of more public servants. The only job creation in the 9 years of the Labor government, sir, was in the public service. Was in the public service. Well, I want to say to the new education spokesperson. I was a public service once. Oh, that's right. This is the new education spokesman for the Labor Party. Mr. Speaker, he hasn't left school. He hadn't had a proper job. He's been at Hillary, he's been at college, he's been at university, and that is all he has done, sir. Never been a union organiser, never worked for the Department of Internal Affairs, never worked for worked on the streets, sweeping the streets, never had a proper job in his life, Mr. Speaker. And now he thinks he can get up in this house and pretend that he's going to be the Minister of Education. Well, I got news for that man. It ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. Come the 27th of November, what will happen is this, that there will be no change on this side of the House, and there will be a few changes on that side of the House. Some of them will be gone forever. Some of them will be back for another 3 years in the opposition. So I want to talk now about something that I think deserves a good debate in the House. And that is vulnerable children. That is child abuse. That is an issue in this country that we should all hang our heads in shame. Sir, it isn't our fault. It isn't their fault. It isn't anybody's fault other than those that perpetuate it on our babies. And quite frankly, sir, there is a way out of it. Because child abuse doesn't happen when you have a strong culture. Child abuse doesn't happen in kapahaka. Child abuse doesn't happen as part of the norm for a culture. And my wish, sir, is that we take a hold of a renaissance of Māori culture and run with it. Because in the last recession, the big recession, and I lived through that, sir. In fact, I was one of the people who were laid off in the 80s, sir. In the last big economic recession, sir. And what happened is that our Māori community thought to themselves, okay, well, what about the rejuvenation of our language? And you look at kohanga, you look at kura, and sir, I will stand in this house and say that yes, there have been the odd one or two graduates from kura who've gone off the rails, but very rare indeed, sir. And so I'm talking about a part of our community, the Māori community, that is continually under the spotlight. And for my cousin, relation, whanaunga, Hone Haruira, to get on the TV tonight and spout what he was spouting on about blaming the National Party for the poor statistics in housing, in education, in the economy, Sir, I was Minister of Māori Affairs way back in 1996. Sir, and the unemployment figures were no different than they are today. And we've had 3 governments since then. 3 or 4 governments since that time. So it's time for our people to rise up and take the bull by the horns and do it themselves, as they did back in the 80s, as they did with kohanga and kura, and not rely on handouts, not rely on any sort of goodwill from government or from either party. We can do it, sir. Culture is all about the good things. It's not about the nasty stuff. Culture is about the good things. Wakaama, kapahaka, te reo classes, kura, kohanga, they are all the good things that our tupuna, our ancestors, have left us, sir. And so my, I suppose, call to our people is to say, look, if you're not happy with it, if you're not happy with the system, by all means, go out on your own and look at what happened in the 80s. Look at people like Dame Iritana Tāwhiwhirangi. Look at the kohanga movement. Look at the kura movement, sir, for what I consider to be some of the answers staring at us in our faces. My hats go off to those people in our community that, on the smell of an oily rag, were able to run an early childhood centre. Here's something that the Labour administration did. They required 100% of the staff at an early childhood education centre to be qualified. Might be a good idea in La La Land, but who's going to pay for it? Who's going to pay for it? $5 billion, hang on, $5 billion in promises so far. In promises so far. Under their regime, sir, under their regime, they will steal money hand over fist from good working people just to pay for some promises to get back into power, sir. At the end of the day, sir, my mother-in-law's early childhood centre doesn't need 100% qualified staff. What she needs is qualified staff and the support of her mums and dads in her community. That's what she needs, sir. And she gets it, sir. She doesn't need 100% qualified people, sir. I think it's going to be a great year this year, notwithstanding our massive win on the 27th of November. And, sir, yeah, the day after, sir, the day after. The day after, I'll be suffering from a hangover when I beat Twyford in Te Atatu.
Order.